My dad leant back in his old easy chair and he sighed heavily. He was drifting and dreaming over his 84 years. He was glancing his own footprints marked through the sands of time. Yesterdays and yesteryears, my dad said, and they're as alive and as real as today, love. Dad laughed and closed his eyes. Guess what, love? I've just got a strong whiff of Aunt Sally's disinfectant. God. He sniffed at the imagined air and he chuckled to himself. Well, that's a bloody smell from the old days, Carol. God almighty, me ma used to stink the house out with that blinking disinfectant. Pine. Everywhere you went, all I could smell was pine. Dad carried on laughing because he saw the old familiar bottle very clearly in his old mind. Ma told me that was the only cleaner worth its salt. And she knew a thing or two about cleaners, me ma did. Dad shook his head at the old memory. God almighty, me ma huffed and she puffed till her knuckles bled. He grimaced at the sight of remembering his poor ma's hands. She clutched that worn-out scrubbing brush and that bucket of hers and carved them all over the house. In fact, I think she'd done half the street bath most of the time. Dad studied his reflection in his window, and he saw so much more than I could see. And you know, love, me ma, well, she had to kneel down so slowly. There's them poor knees of hers, well, they were always red raw and bleeding. My dad winced, and he remembered the pain on his ma's face. But love, she'd insist on keeping our house immaculate. God, I can hear her shouting now, that voice of hers bellowing all over the show. He laughed and he threw back his head, mimicking ma's voice. Hey, soft lad, we mightn't have much of an house, you know, Johnny, but what we do have, we can keep bloody spotlessly clean, because cleanliness, love, it's next to godliness. Don't you forget that, will you, soft lad? Like the other mums in our street, my dad said, and his eyes glistened with pride and tears. My ma, well, she was a strong-willed woman. Could have been that red hair of hers that you got to. But you know, back then, when all else fell apart, those women, they stood together during all of the war, and they did what needed to be done for their family. Them women stayed united and defiant through the whole bloody raging war. Sacrificed the very existence they did, just so that their children would have as near a normal childhood, despite the raging invasion going on around them. Dad leaned over his bed and he shuffled at the faded photographs that come from his treasured box of souvenirs that he keeps safely tucked away at the bottom of his old battered wardrobe. Yep, the women, he said, they shared what little they had, Carol, because little things meant a lot. And they expected nothing in return from an uncertain world. They lived for today, this moment right now. I handed Dad a strong cup of tea as he struggled to keep his tears at bay. My ma said to me, to wake up, Johnny, and know my children were alive, to see my family, my friends and the neighbours, to see them all safe and sound. That was more than enough for us, Johnny. Tears mingled with laughter in those darkest of days. Dad picked up, with shaking hands, a stack of crumbling number 16 tram tickets and he stroked them fondly. There's an old song, Carol, he said, and it plays over and over in my heart. The words, well, they're locked in a distant part of my soul. Dad sang an old line from his old remembered song with a wistful smile on his face. It's funny how time slips away. Dad's red eyes well up. Time does slip away, love, but some days you can never forget, like the day we went to war. Dad takes a drink of his steaming cup of tea. It's Builder's tea, colour of creosote, and that That's exactly how he likes it. There was bombing, air raids, ration books, blackout curtains, and God almighty, you could forget that bloody awful stink of dierback and carbolic soap. Love, it stunk to high heaven. He laughed and he placed the china cup in the saucer. But that longed-for wail of the all-clear siren, that was like music to our ears in those gloomy air raid shelters. I can't even begin to imagine the horror that a world at war brings. Well, Carol, it was the adults who bore the worries, love. Dad blew out a long, slow breath. And you know, love, as odd as it seems, life for us kids, well, it carried on as a bittersweet adventure. Us kids, well, you know, we still play dollies, love. Dad smiled. And we kicked a football. At the tin can, we went to the movies and we swapped our comics. And we still tell ghost stories around a bonfire on the rubble that used to be houses. Dad reached over and he kissed the yellow photograph of his brother and sister, Jimmy and Kath. And he suddenly burst out into loud sobs, tears pouring down his face as he stared at Kath. Oh God, Carol, I'll never forget that awful feeling in the pit of my belly, or the wretched voice of the juicy sergeant when he shouted, "Johnny, I'm so sorry." That awful, endless journey home across the North Sea. I cried until there was nothing left inside of me. My heartache wrung me out until my insides were dry and raw. I wanted to run away, to find a dark room and close the curtains and to hide away so I would never have to witness life carrying on as usual. How could it when my world had crumbled? But you know, the sun still rose and the moon still set, love. The birds still sang in the trees, but not for me. No. For me, there was no beauty or sweet sound left in the world. No, not back then. Not even now, really. Not when I look at it. Dad clutched the photograph close to his heart and he shook his head. You know, Dad, I said, you've got a wonderful memory. I handed him a tissue and picked up his empty cup and saucer. I know there are some terrible and painful memories, but why don't you and I write a book of all your memories, eh, Dad? He turned and looked at me and smiled, and his eyes sort of got a glint in them. Do you think we could, love? Could we really write a book? Is that even possible? Hey, Dad, anything's possible if you want it enough. I jumped up. Especially, Dad, when it comes from the heart. Reliving those moments of your childhood could actually help other people to taste their own sweet memories. And it will help those who didn't live through the war years to understand how community spirit kept people going. Your tales could bring to life the tales that other parents and grandparents have told their children. Well, love, those first 30 years growing up in Kirkdale were the happiest of my life. Dad smiled wistfully. But you know, life hands us choices, doesn't it? Different paths that we may or may not take. I chose my path, rightly or wrongly. I slung my old guitar over my shoulder, I hit the road and I moved on. But you know, I never forgot the love that I shared with my very first sweetheart from Kirkdale. My everlasting sweetheart from Snowdrop Street. Love slipped through our fingers somewhere along the way. Dad gazed through his window, sunshine glinting on his thick silver hair. I asked myself many times over the years, Carol, who's kissing her now? Dad sings a line from another old song, from the many that mean so much to him. I wonder if me and my first sweetheart will ever have the chance to leave older footprints across the sand of time. What do you think, Carol, love? And what do you lot think? To find out more, get a copy of the book, Sing Us a Song More, before we say goodbye. Have a look on our Facebook page, and we're even on Amazon and YouTube. But for now, God bless you all. Thanks for listening to us. Ta-ra now. Have a great day.